Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast with your host, Chris. I am that guy who I just said. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 148. And I have a great guest for you guys today. But first, you know how much I like my shop talk. As always, if you'd like to keep up with the show, you can do that, or, keep in contact with me personally, okay? I'm more than just a show. I'm a man. You can do that at both my Twitter and Instagram. Both are at Casting42. Or the website, Casting42, email, casting42@gmail.com, all those. And, of course, I am available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just do the search of Casting for Two, and if you like the show, leave a comment, a nice comment. That'd be cool. If you want, no pressure. I don't want to pressure anybody into doing anything. But as always, or not as always, but my GoFundMe is still going on for my short film. And if you'd like to donate, click on the link and donate. Every little bit helps. And yeah, so that's all I want to talk about. I guess I should get into my guest. Yeah, sound good. My guest today he's a comedic legend. He was on or a member of the Kids in the Hall, which was a sketch comedy group, TV show, all that good stuff. Mr. Kevin McDonald is on the show, and I was so happy to have talked to him just because I did watch Kids in the Hall. And he's such a funny guy, and I was happy to pick his brain a little bit about comedy. So, but you know what? Let's get into this episode, all right? Sit back, relax, and Chris, cue the music, please.
Hello.
Hi, is this Kevin?
This is Kevin, yes, hi.
Hi, Kevin. It's Chris from Casting for Two.
Hello, thank you for calling.
No, thank you for answering.
That's what I've been saying all morning.
This would have been the fastest episode have you not answered.
Yes, it would have, yes.
How's your afternoon going? Your morning/afternoon?
Yes, it's the morning. I'm an hour behind East Coast time. I don't know what time you are, so it's the morning, and it's going fine. It's a day of interviews.
Okay, right on. Now, when you're doing a day of interviews, I get you probably get a lot of repeat questions. Is there one question where you're like, man, I don't know, you kind of not freshen it up for yourself and just make something up entirely?
Yes, sometimes I do that. Because I guess I come from improv, I don't mind getting the same question repeated again, but sometimes I do make things that I don't think I have for a while. Well, sometimes I put little things in that aren't true, and then later Kid in the Hall will read that and go, that's a lie. I know for years they asked me how the Kids in the Hall got their name, and I was so bored after a while saying the true story that it was like Sid Caesar, and he had writers, and he had young guys who were kids in the hall, and they told enough jokes, they become writers, and it was Mel Brooks and Woody Allen and Neil Simon were some kids in the hall. So after a while, I started, I spent a year lying, saying that it was from the Clash song, Lost in the Supermarket, because they do say in the song, the kids in the hall make noises in the wall so scarily, or something like that. And it seemed right that we would take something from that. We love the Clash, and the line makes sense. So it seemed like a good lie. So I told people that for a while.
It'd be real awkward if you weren't a fan of the Clash, and then you have all the Clash fans coming and asking you questions about the band. Like,
I know. I can make an outrageous lie and say, yeah, it's from the Pink Floyd song, "Pigs" beside two of animals, and then just make it up. But, they say the Kids in the Hall will be funny one day. Yeah, so we thought that's a good name for us.
Right on. And so the one question you've probably gotten before, but I would really like to know when you thought comedy was something you wanted to pursue.
Oh, that's a good one, and I know exactly when. It was in grade 3. It was in grade 3 where at first I thought I was just going to be a writer, like as early as grade 2 or 3, because I always liked to write. And then in grade 3, I forget the teacher's name, but she had a thing. One class for a whole month. We were supposed to. Everyone in the class was supposed to write something, and then they, excuse me, they went to the front of the class and made a speech and read what they wrote. And I wrote something about I was in football at the time, like little peewee football, and I wrote a really to the grade 3 students a funny thing about my exploits in football, like I got hurt in the huddle and things like that. I think I lied. I don't think that really happened. I said that so many times now. And he got like giant laughs. And then a month later, she wanted us to write another story. And I thought, well, I wrote my comedy. Now I'm going to write, I was always a fan of movies back then. I guess it was grade 5. That makes more sense. It was grade 5. So I said, well, now I'll write my Alfred Hitchcock thriller. So I wrote some kind of thriller about a guy setting his friend's car on fire to get insurance money, but someone got killed, and I was really excited to read it. And then in class that day, there were 3 or 4 kids in front of me, and then the teacher said, now, Kevin, will you read yours? And all of a sudden, I heard the whole class whisper and murmur and get excited. And I heard them say, and I heard this all whisper through the class, this is going to be funny. Oh, my God, this is going to be funny. And so I walked all the way in front of the class with a lump in my throat. No, I was about to tell my Alfred Hitchcock thriller. So I looked at the pages, and I pretended to read it, but I didn't read it at all. I sort of made up a story based on my vacation that we had a couple years earlier in Bahamas, and made up other stuff like how I drove. This actually is true. I did drive the golf cart into the water and things like that, and got even more laughs. And then I thought, I'm going to school that day happy and sad, thinking, I'm cursed. I was already thinking this in grade 5. I have to be a comedian.
You went in thinking I'm going to express my range as a storyteller, and people are like, nope. Yeah,
because I hate to disappoint people. And when they remember me, I thought, oh my God, they're going to be so. And not only that, also my insecurity. They'll forget that I was funny the first time.
Yeah.
And I guess I knew that I was funny enough that that's the thing that I wanted to be known as. More than anything, more than Alfred Hitchcock thriller writer. It's too bad. The next thing would have been sci-fi, but then for the rest of the year, I just wrote comedy, and that was it. And now I still do.
You know what? You could still get back into it.
Thank you very much.
You can have another career. Why not?
Right now, slowly. I always thought that, but now as time is creeping by, it seems I haven't even got the comedy right yet.
Was anybody in your where do you think your the comedy bone comes from? Were your parents funny?
Wow. My father's friends thought he was funny. Mm-hmm. But I did not. But he was like a showman. He was like a dental equipment salesman, and he's the one that did all the speaking to the dentists when there were like speeches to be made. And his name was Hamilton. Everyone called him Hammy, and they thought Hammy was funny. My mother had a good sense of silliness. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it came from, other than my father would say ridiculous things and mean it. And it would be accidentally funny. I was somehow born with a sense of irony that I could play a character who says those kind of things, but I'm detached and I know that it's funny. And so I did take a bit of my father's, like at least his character, but again, with a sense of irony, knowing that it's funny. He doesn't know that it's funny. I was about to give you an example of what he said once, but I can't ruin your show by telling you it's horrible and racist, so I'm not going to.
Oh, you know what? If you don't want to say racist things, that is your prerogative.
Yes.
That's fine.
Again, it would be my father saying it, but
Right.
now, and I would in 1991, right before political correctness really took over, but now in 2016, I respect that, and I'll just keep my father's horrible things to myself.
There we go. That's something that people in the media could use, and I'm not singling anyone out in particular, Trump, but, just keep it to yourself.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
absolutely. McDonald dropped bombshell.
The headlines are out. McDonald's.
Yeah. My father said it. He was very drunk. He sort of meant it. So for a million reasons, it's better that I keep it to myself. But let's pretend I just told you.
Right.
And I said, but that's the kind of thing my characters might. They actually wouldn't say anything that horrible.
Right.
But the kind of spirit of saying something so stupid and ridiculous that isn't correct, that is something my characters would say. So if I got anything from my parents, it's probably my mother's silly faces and at least the character of my dad.
Well, let's talk about some of the characters that you've played. I had a fun. Generally do research. For you, I didn't have to do that much because I watched Kids in the Hall, and I watched your your beautiful scene in Unaccompanied Minors. So I know your career. I get it.
Thanks.
And also I have to say, you were hilarious in Man Seeking Woman.
Oh, is that aired already? That was so much fun. Very rarely, because I'm a pompous egomaniac who thinks the Kids in the Hall are the greatest thing in the world, that something is as good as the Kids in the Hall. And I thought that was that was for sure. And everybody on the set was really funny, and I'm so glad it turned out funny. It was good.
Oh, yeah, it was good. And I love your character's name was Chainsaw.
Yeah. The least name you would expect for a guy that I would play. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, just going through your characters, is there one character in particular where you're like, man, I like that character. I'd like to explore that character, or bring that character back in any way?
Well, there's one. My favorite character is complex. I have a complex relationship with it.
Mm-hmm.
That I love it and do want to play, but I have trouble with it because it is sort of me. And it's the King of Empty Promises, where I'm the guy that says "will do" and slip my mind all the time. Uh-huh. Where I promise things that I don't get. Because one day I came into the office and my writing partner Norm Hiscock, who used to be a Kid in the Hall, then he quit before we had the TV show. Then we hired him back as season 3 to write and became my writing partner. I said, "What are we going to write today, Norm?" And he said, "Why don't we write about that horrible thing you do to people?" What? Which horrible thing did I do to people? He said, "Oh, well, you're always promising that you're going to tape this album," because I had all the albums in the world, and you always forget and you never do. I go, all right, we'll do that. And then we, and that's all the idea we had, and we just sort of sat down and we wrote a sketch, and we knew it was pretty good. But then I do it like, Paul Bellini, the guy in the towel that we poke with a stick?
Yeah.
He was also Scott's writing partner, and that's sort of how Bellini talks, or at least I don't do impressions, so when I try to do Bellini, that's how it came, and it made it seem more evil, and I'm convinced that's my soul talks like that. Bellini will do. It's in my mind. And so I do have a complex relationship with that. I love doing it, but exploring it makes me, I should take it as therapy and try to become a better person out of it, but it's been 20 years now, and nothing's good happened.
That has to be probably one of the most awkward things where it's, hey, what are we going to write about? Oh, you know that horrible thing you do? Let's do that.
You do to me? Yeah. And you know what? Which writer in the room did that more than anyone else for my stuff? Me. I just didn't put in those words.
Right.
But when I was having trouble in a relationship, I would realize what I was doing wrong, and I would write sketches about it. When I do things wrong all the time, my favorite sketches are probably the ones where I did based on wrong things I did, or my favorite sketch is the one that caused me the most pain in real life was the one about my drunk dad, where it's called Daddy Drank, because I was telling Dave Foley and Norm one day, we didn't have any idea, so I was telling him horrible drunk dad stories, which I had always told, and the guys are sad stories, and these guys started laughing, and then Dave said those words you hear a lot in the writing room for a sketch show. Hey, that could be a sketch. Which I didn't get at all. I thought it was a sad story. And then so we did a thing called Daddy Drank, and I remember right before we went on, because we taped in front of a live audience, I thought, I'm just going to make the audience sad. This won't work at all. And then they laughed too. It was crazy. all these true stories of my horrible dad.
That's all good.
Yeah, now it is.
It's all fine now, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the therapist says anyway.
Yeah. Thank God for sketch comedy for some of us. I don't know if it's like therapy that it helps, but it must help a little tiny bit. That at least I've said it and got it over with and done it and dealt with it in some level. I haven't fixed anything, but I'm aware of it anyway.
There you go. Well, I'd like to talk to you about comedy from when you started versus now. What do you see has changed?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, when we started, and no one's asked me this before, so this is good. So this is a fresh answer.
All right.
When we started, we couldn't film anything. No one could afford like a 16-millimeter camera or 8-millimeter
right.
camera. Yeah, we had to learn how to film sketches and stuff like the hard way with the TV show. I mean, when we had a stage show first before we were discovered, we always thought filmically. We built two stages. We had the main stage and a side stage because we were already thinking in terms of cut two, and cut two comedy is so important filmically. So we would do something in the main stage, and the lights would go off, and it would cut to the side stage, and that's the closest we came that we were able to film something. And I would say that's the biggest difference, that when people get their TV shows, but when sketch comics get their TV shows now, they know what to do.
Yeah.
They know what size a lens is and things like that. We had no idea. The other thing I think that's kind of different, it's funny because two things have happened at the same time, and I don't know how they coexist. Shock comedy has become normal, and yet political correctness has become bigger than ever.
Oh.
And somehow they both coexist, and they sort of weren't around with us. I think we're, in some ways, some people think of us as the grand uncle of shock comedy, but we just think of ourselves as a comedy, and like maybe Tom Green started it. I don't know. But also, we could get away with more back then.
Right.
We were on HBO, and then CBS, but CBS put us on at 3 in the morning, so they let us do whatever we want. And there's lots of stuff we wouldn't be able to do now. And I think those are some of the differences in comedy. But also, maybe it's because of YouTube videos. Sketch comedy is better now. I think it was worse back when we were around.
Right. Now I do feel like sometimes the filter is on,
Yes.
and then when somebody takes that filter off, the whole world goes crazy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you can somehow get away with lots of stuff, and you're right. For some reason, there's one particular moment where the filter's taken off and the whole world goes crazy. Yes, absolutely. I'm repeating what you said because I liked it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It sounds better from you, though.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I know the whole world goes. But also, just, technically, sketch comedy. Why is Key and Peele? Key and Peele is a technically perfect sketch comedy show.
Yeah.
They do everything right, at least technically, and always, usually. They have great premises, great hooks. They have great characters. They're great actors. They can play it. There's good jokes within it. And then, and this is the most miraculous thing to me, almost all their endings work, which is the hardest thing in sketch comedy. It's like a technically perfect sketch comedy show. How did that happen over the years? We were never, sketch comedy is supposed to be hit and miss.
Right.
Kids in the Hall, Monty Python even, of course. But they seem to be hit and hit all the time. Now, I laugh harder at Kids in the Hall, Monty Python, but sometimes when one of their technically perfect scenes is really funny, it's like, I guess I smile for days. I'm so happy.
That's good. I mean, it didn't occur to me until you said it, and then I started, flashbacking to everything. It is hard to end something.
Yes.
For sure. I know whenever I think of short films to write, I have the beginning, I have the middle. Now, how do I end this sucker? Fart joke.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's really hard. When I teach workshops about sketch writing, my only tidbit of advice is don't worry about getting a laugh if it hasn't come naturally. Of course, a laugh is what we want. End the story first. Right. Try to at least end the story. And there's little tricks you can do, like bookends. Sometimes it ends the way it begins, or if you sometimes you follow the lead character, they'll tell you the sort of the story. But yeah, it's got to be the hardest thing in sketch comedy.
Now, am I going to have to pay you for that tidbit?
Yes, that was $325.
Do
you have a year to send it to me?
Do you accept Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure. Is that still around? Is that falling apart yet?
No, it's still around, and I still don't know how anybody acquires it, but it's still going.
Okay.
One day, the monopoly money will become actual currency.
Yeah, that's the next step after Bitcoin for sure.
So you have a new podcast coming out.
Oh yeah.
Would you like to talk about that or not?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's talk about that for a second. Sure. The podcast, or as I like to call it, it's the new Plan B in a comic's career. So the podcast. But I admit it's a Plan B, but I'm enjoying it so much, and because it's a podcast thing, I get to do what I finally want. I wanted to do it on TV. I've been pitching it for years on TV, and now it's an audio podcast. But I'm sort of, and this is not an original idea. This has been done a million times since. But I'm over 50 now, and I think I'm allowed to do something that's been done. I'll try to make everything funny anyway. It's sort of like an old Jack Benny variety show, but it's like a show within a show, I think, where there's a show, there are sketches,
Yeah.
and there are guests, and there will be comedy monologues, and I'll do a funny song every episode. But it's also a show within the show. Also, part of the show is about the supposed trouble that my character Kevin McDonald, the character that I play called Kevin McDonald, is having with the people who work for the show and getting the show done. It's sort of like Jack Benny.
Okay, right on. And then was it hard to get into the mind of a Kevin McDonald?
No. Years ago it would have been. I think it would have been because I would have thought there were 7 or 8 Kevin McDonalds. But now I know there's only one. I was kidding myself. And I know this because, as I say, I've been pitching this forever and ever. And this is sort of the Kevin McDonald. I think they'll get the best across. And also, what I like about this podcast is that when I decided to do Plan B. It was like, what kind of podcast do you want to do? Mark Maron's interviews? You like movies and music? You just do that, or you just sketches? And I thought, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to do everything. Yeah. Everything. It's sketches. It's comedy monologues. It's talking to guests. It's songs, and it's and I also make fun of the process of that show that I'm describing, a show within a show. And I in no way guaranteeing it's going to be good. I can't guarantee that. I'm not comedy god. But on paper, it's something that I would be interested in listening to anyway.
Right on. And so I know it's not out yet, but by the time this episode comes out, it'll be out. Where can people listen to it?
I don't know anything. The younger kids, the producers that I call the younger, these are young kids of 37 and 38. They're working on that kind of stuff. And I should have asked that before I did this interview. I apologize. I know it's out there somewhere in the air.
Just
I'll start
go to the
promoting it
internet.
if you follow me on Twitter. Not that I remember my Twitter handle name thing, but or the Kids in the Hall website. We'll get it on the Kids in the Hall website.
There.
Everybody listening, and we'll and I'll let you know. Just follow the Kids in the Hall website.
And before we go, I have a friend who's a huge fan of yours. He would always when we were going to school together, he would always quote Senior Trip.
Right.
Yes. And I was wondering if you could say Bobcat steady as she goes.
Do I say that in the movie? I vaguely remember.
Yes. Well, no, his name's Bobcat.
Oh, good. Do I say steady as it goes?
Yeah, can you say Bobcat?
Oh,
That's his name.
Okay, I think I should remember. Okay, here I go.
All right.
Bobcat, steady as it goes.
There we go. Kevin, thank you so much for chatting with me. And I hope nothing for the best, and I can't wait to read your Hitchcock book.
Yes, that's coming out right after I fail with Plan B. Plan C is Hitchcock. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.